Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Apologies for the slight delay in start, and our guest was stuck in traffic. A couple of things that happened today. Some of the questions that were put in, somehow the software appears to have lost it. We're actually trying to retrieve them and put them here. We are going to do our very best to have your questions answered. So it's not our fault. It's something went wrong in the software. We don't know why. And we are doing our very best. Second thing is, please like this video. I'm amazed at the number of questions that have come for this video even before we aired. So we don't want to leave you disappointed. But at the same time, if you could like this video, we'll have more viewership, because I'm sure the Archbishop of Mylapore has some unique things to say about Blinken meeting Xi Jinping, as well as the dancing pastor controversy that has erupted in Chennai, leading to arrests of a guy called 𝙒𝙗𝙣𝙗, who was just politely asking a few questions. Anyway, all that and more. Let's welcome Abhijit, 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙥. Namaskar, Abhijit. How are you?
My name is Blessed Lotus Feet, and please refer to me as that. You can't dead name people. It is extremely shocking.
It sounds like bluff, BLF.
Blessed Lotus Feet.
Blessed Lotus Feet. No. Oh, Blessed Lotus Feet. What does you think about what happened? There was a pastor who was dancing with a nice looking girl, or at least we are seeing the backside, whatever it is. It's not unusual in the West. And
I think it was a dress-up party or something. Okay. Yeah. So irrespective of it is,
hold on. Let's take a look at the video and then you can comment. Can you have the video, please? Drum roll. Okay, so he has added some Tamil song to the background, in case you are wondering, and it's interesting. That's all I can say. Over to you, Blessed Lotus Feet.
Well, what's offensive about this? They've arrested him for outraging sentiment. I think we should name and shame the fellow who felt that his sentiment was outraged.
Look, this is pandering of the highest order by the DMK to the...
But that is what they always do, no? Because remember, unlike Hindus, the Christian community and the Muslim community, they deliver their votes as a vote bank in Tamil Nadu as promised.
It's not just Tamil Nadu, man. Why are you trying to single out Tamil Nadu? This happens in every state. That's not the point.
It's the worst.
The point is not that. Are they willing to be, they're all educated. At least the Christians community is fairly educated. I mean, not all, but maybe many. And,
look, education does not matter. There is first world Christianity and there's third world Christianity. First world Christianity is like very liberal. Third world Christianity, irrespective. In fact, amongst the educated classes, it is even more fundamentalistic than amongst the uneducated classes. So the education level doesn't matter. Third world Christianity is fundamentally vicious, vindictive, and very, very fundamentalist.
Well, the point I think we are trying to make is the guy who put this video, his name is 𝙒𝙗𝙣𝙗𝙗, and this man essentially just said, Hindus, you should think, or something of that nature, that this is what is happening with pastors. Nothing wrong. I mean, he's displaying the video, and well, one could argue that the pastor has whatever, but does it merit being arrested? Why is DMK being allowed to get away with this kinds of stuff? Every other day, the General Secretary S.G. Surya was arrested for a second time in as many days. And he's again waiting to get bail and come out. And what exactly is going on here, I have no idea. Abhijit, you go to Mylapore, you skirt in, you dart into Mylapore, you spend a few days and then you dart out. How are things with you? Why do you think this is happening? When is it going to stop? When is Mr. Modi or Mr. Amit Shah going to crack the whip?
They're not going to crack the whip at all. There's nothing realistically that they can do. You tell me what is physically possible out here.
Well, for one thing, whatever they take up against the DMK ministers, they should not make a hash of it. For example, when the arrest happened, they could have easily taken a panel of doctors from AIIMS, and the guy could have examined before conducting the arrest that yes, I have examined, give a certificate, he is fully healthy, and taken him away to Delhi. What's wrong with that? They did that with Karti Chidambaram.
But look, this is BJP, boss. They never stand by anybody. They think if they will not help you. If you do anything for them, it is in the national interest. But be happy with that. They genuinely believe in karmanyavadi karaste mafaleshu kadachana.
That's you and I. I mean, I'm just worried about the long-suffering public. Okay, so,
They
and
can continue to suffer. The BJP doesn't give a shit.
well, I do.
Well,
Anyway,
they don't.
well, I do. I mean, that's okay. This is just
They
a
don't give a damn. And the point is,
yeah.
we don't count. They count.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we'll move on to the next topic. Hindus of Tamil Nadu, I am with you, and I'll take this thing to the last breath. I'm not going to give up on these things. Just wait and see how things play out. Next thing is about the significance of Secretary of State Blinken meeting Xi Jinping, and now followed up by that, Janet Yellen has gone to China. What gives, Abhijit?
Look, they claim they're trying to diversify. I'm not seeing any proof of diversification from China, away from China. Okay. It was there was serious move towards it during COVID and Trump. Now I think there's mostly lip service towards it. I'm not seeing it actually happen on the ground. Now Blinken goes there, comes back, and then Biden calls him a dictator. I suppose that was a slip of the tongue, because it set back whatever Blinken achieved or did not achieve. It set it back by a good. It negated any gains, illusory or otherwise, that Blinken's visit got. But the funny thing was Janet Yellen. Did you see her body language with Xi Jinping? She was literally bending over to bow to him, kneel to him, as if he was, in China, they used to do the kowtow. You know the kowtow, no?
Yeah.
Kowtow is you go in front of the emperor, you get down on your knees and your head touches the floor 3 times. Then you get up, you walk 3 steps, and then you do this again 3 times, get down on the floor 3 times. Then you get up again, walk another 3 steps, and then do this again 3 times. So 9 times your head touches the floor. Okay. And this is exactly what Janet Yellen was trying to do. I mean, she's not very flexible because she's quite chubby. So she couldn't get down on the floor. But if she could get down on the floor, that's what she would have done. It shows you really how dependent America is on China. Okay. So for all the bluster and big talk, China is helping out Russia a lot more than India ever has. And in spite of that, in spite of all of that, they're going out of their way to placate China or whatever. So let them.
Well, Abhijit, I heard that China has agreed to stop exporting to Russia everything following the Blinken meeting.
They have done nothing of the sort.
Okay.
Who told you this? Is this an official statement?
No, I just got it on social media.
Yeah, so I also heard on social media that Xi Jinping is from Mars. He's not human.
Wait. Let's get back to Blinken's visit, and then Biden saying the exact opposite and calling him a dictator. This is called strategic ambiguity, which is what Sun Tzu practices.
Yeah, no, it really isn't. Strategic ambiguity is when the other doesn't know what you're doing. This isn't strategic ambiguity. This is strategic schizophrenia.
Well, whatever it is, that the blessed lotus feet has spoken, and that will not be the last word, but it is one of the words. Let's move on to our questions, and we have a lot of those questions. And blessed lotus feet, may I kindly request you to keep your answers short? Thank you. Amay G. Tandon, question for both. If Hindu hatred is equal to India hatred, then does it mean not liking Christianity is equal to hating USA, Europe, or the Western Christianity inseparable?
And does it not mean that Christianity hating? What you've started seeing is that Christianity hate is in fact turning into America and Europe hate. It is. Because the people who hate Christianity are the ones who want to change the entire demographic nature of America and Europe with migrants and all of that. So yes, I do believe the West and Christianity are inseparable. Absolutely.
All right. I don't have anything extra to offer, Amay. So let's go to the next question, please. Kanda Batata wants to know, is the GST of 28% on gaming justified? Question to both of you.
No, I don't think it is. The point is, there's this big debate happening. Is it a game of skill or is it a game of chance? And so, the government, the moment it perceives they don't understand we still don't understand what the government's understanding of game of skill versus game of chance is. Okay, because a business risk is also a game of chance technically, because you can never factor in extraneous shocks. Now, they've decided, because the Supreme Court said game of skill, they've decided to tax it at the highest possible rate because they think there is elements within the government that think it's a game of chance. Now, what do? If this is the way they think, this is the way they think. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't think it's justified, but it is what it is.
Next question, please. Rahul Rathod wants to know, do minorities in India are aware that except Parsis, all are originally Hindus, converted later on nobody is Arab, Turkish, etc. Will UCC end minority identity politics in future? Your view?
I don't know. I am not a minority, so I can't tell you what they think. It's not a conversation I've had with them at any rate. And no, UCC not. The only thing that will end minority identity politics is urbanization and industrialization, if at all that. It has the best chance, but even that, I doubt very much. I mean, you're seeing what's happening in America, no?
Ishan Sharma wants to know, do you agree that with the breakup of NCP, the NDA BJP plans to make Baramati Lok Sabha seat the new Amethi Lok Sabha seat in terms of winning and harming Sharad Pawar election? Impact in India?
No, I don't think so. I think Sharad Pawar is completely in cahoots, half in cahoots with the BJP.
Why do you say that?
Because everything points to that, boss. There is no way in hell Praful Patel did what he did without. Praful Patel won't move a hair of his eye. He won't move his eyelashes without permission from Sharad Pawar. And Praful Patel is an extremely loyal person. Huh? So I don't accept this whole thing about Ajit Pawar. This is Sharad Pawar being Sharad Pawar and playing both sides.
Next question, please. Yaduvanshi ji, aren't minority schemes and freebies anti-secular? Can't it be challenged in Supreme Court?
You can't technically. You can't, because you can try. I mean, nothing prevents you from trying. Because remember, again, we keep going back to this. In France, it would be illegal because it's against laïcité, which is keeping all religion out. Here it's dharma nirpeksh, which is not taking sides. Okay, so try it, but it will get kicked out. And I suspect under the current Chief Justice, you'll also get fined. So try it by all means, but I don't think it fundamentally goes, because it's always been done. It's always been accepted. Jurisprudence accepts that governments can interfere in the personal laws of the majority, but not of the minority, generally speaking. Similarly, jurisprudence accepts that certain religions can be given subsidies if you can prove that other things. So they will say, hey, we're giving Amarnath subsidies and things like that, etc., etc. And that will be that. So they will claim that they are not dharma nirpeksh, that they're living up to dharma nirpeksh.
Yaduvanshi ji, DMK government does not want to implement economically weaker sections 10% reservation because they say that would benefit Brahmins. This is their statement. In fact, they have filed an appeal after losing the case in Supreme Court that they will not implement 10%. They have appealed again that for a review petition on that. And they are so blind because of their hatred for Brahmins that there are 32 different communities, including Muslims and Christians, that are losing out because of the 10% EWS not being implemented. This is your polity now. This is your politics.
Look, I think DMK had changed because of Karunanidhi. He had softened a lot. But Stalin has gone back to the early days of Karunanidhi. I don't think he'll soften because, he's one of those people that believes his own bullshit. One should never believe one's own bullshit.
Next question, please. Maliban Bhattacharya, do you feel the need to carry out all the projects in Western Himalayan states JnK, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand without considering the impact it may have on the local environment, referring to floods?
Which projects, Babu? Most of the projects have happened because of most of the environmental damage has happened because of overpopulation. Okay, unrestricted zoning and things like that. So it has very little to do. The projects are also in response to overpopulation. No, they already have things. So, for example, in Uttarakhand and Himachal, you can't just move there and settle down. You have to become a resident, and there's all kinds of onerous responsibilities on you. Look, there's only so much you can do after a point. I think the zoning itself is obsolete. There are things that you can do to reduce the size of urban spread and bring it down and grow higher out there, like they do in Hong Kong, for example. They won't even do that. There's no application of mind. So you can carry out the projects, but you carry them out in a smarter way. There is no smarter way in India, We'll do what we've done 70 years back because that's what we've been taught. End of story. It's your Indian education system. They don't tell you how to problem solve. They only tell you how to do it, and then they teach you the how, not the why.
Aditya B wants to know, did guerrilla warfare evolve from the Peninsular War or was it from the days of Mao?
Peninsular War. That is where the word guerrilla itself comes from. By the way, the Peninsular War that he's talking about is Napoleon versus Wellington in Spain. So that was where the word guerrilla, diminutive of guerra is war in the Romance languages, derived incidentally from Germanic, because the original Romance word for war is bellum, which now means beautiful in most of the Romance languages. And guerrilla is diminutive of the small war, essentially. That's what it means.
Next question, please. Turtle Research wants to know, we were not able to recruit Gorkhas for the third time in a row. How does it affect Indian Army in the short and long term? Does it signal more deterioration in India-Nepal relations?
Yeah, look, it's going to affect them a lot more. I don't think there's any shortage of people wanting to join the army. Okay, it affects the Nepalese a lot more. It affects the very fact that it could also be market economics. Maybe the Gorkhas are finding better places to apply to. I doubt that very much. But that could also be the case. But look, it's going to ricochet back on their government. It doesn't really affect us. There's no shortage of people wanting to join the army on this side.
Next question, please. Simple Life wants to know, Indian Football Federation got 134 crores budget. General Secretary is being paid 12.5 lakhs a month, but the players are being paid rupees 1,500 a day of playing. How can this be corrected?
It can't be corrected. Understand all the sports federations. There is not a single sports federation in India that isn't a front for money laundering. Money laundering is done through sports, which is why every sports body has a politician as its head. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the way it is. If you interfere, if governments, and it's protected, it's not just in India, it's across the world. If you interfere, if the government interferes in it, your sportsmen are disqualified from international events citing government interference. So best of luck. I don't think it's a problem that can be solved.
Next question, please. Ishan Khosla, is Nirmala Sitharaman going to be replaced as the finance minister?
There's a lot of talk about it, but I don't know. Generally in Delhi, political gossip is 50% right, 50% wrong. So I don't know.
Abhijit, I'm hearing that Shaktikanta Das could be one of the nominees for the finance minister. Have you heard that?
Well, if that is the case, he'll be a disaster because I think Nirmala's done a very good job. Shaktikanta would be a disaster. But anyway, best of luck. It will go from one Tamil speaker to another Tamil speaker.
Next question. Arvind TSY wants to know, Sri, what are your views on Brahminism? You can't concur with everything the guest says. Abhijit, Swami and Rajgopalan have different views. What is your own independent view? If you will permit me to answer this question. Arvind, my belief is that you are what you are by what you do rather than where you are born. There were a group of people in the place where I am originally from, Kanchipuram area. Pallavas used to rule there, and they used to be called themselves as Kshatriya Brahmins. That's a new construct, if you will. and they were aware of warfare. They were also aware of Vedas, and this was a very powerful group of people who in fact became kings. Some of the Pallava kings are believed to be that. So I look at me today as I'm a Kshatriya, because I am leading the charge here in many of the different initiatives. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in SP 403, PGurus is acknowledged as the top influencer in terms of being able to keep up-to-date information about this, as well as getting various schools of thought on it. Now, I haven't got anybody who has come and said yes to SB 403. That side hasn't weighed in on my channel. If somebody calls me and says that, yes, I want to put forth my point of view, I'll be more than happy to provide them the platform. But this is where I stand. Thank you. Next one. Sandeep, Sri Iyer sir, is 370 coming from the back door of the Supreme Court? Also, Umar Khalid seems to be getting bail all before 2024. Abhijit, you take this thing. This is your question and answer show.
No, he's asking you answer.
No, it will not. It's done. 370 is done, guys. It will never come back. And Supreme Court, well, you can do anything you want. It is a free country. If Supreme Court wants to entertain such petitions, well, they can take a look at it. Unfortunately for me, in my book, the Supreme Court has done a gross dereliction of duty by not looking at what the MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises went through when in 2007, the rupee appreciated against the dollar, and these people hedged against that and lost a ton of money. And the money was owed to public sector banks that they were actually their bankers. And these people went after and destroyed the SME system at that point of time. And this case, which has been referred to the Supreme Court, it is still sitting there. Nobody wants to even touch it. The people who are guilty are the big public sector banks. So that's how bad it is. So anyway, that's what I think. Next question, please. There you go. That is the influencer. SB 403 PGurus is considered to be the lead on influencing what is happening in the SB 403, at least on the social media. I don't see much success happening at the Assembly, California Assembly, or in Sacramento generally. When they were pointed out, and we are going to have more on this, when it was pointed out to the lawmakers that, look, the judge has thrown out the caste discrimination report based on which you are framing this law, and these arrogant, well, you know the other word that starts with A and ends with S, said that we don't look at what the judiciary does. We make laws. So you can make your own conclusions about the intellect and the intelligence. Some of them are ex-professors of the UC system who are now senators. Shame on you guys. Next question, please. He's enjoying it, ma'am, seeing me go on a rant. Okay, Mr. Lee wants to know, V. Ramaswamy says he will return to, this is Vivek Ramaswamy. Spoil system in appointing bureaucrats. Can this work in India? If 200 IAS Walas run India, getting 200 lateral entrants shouldn't be too hard, right?
But who told you it can't be done? It's already allowed. Joint secretary and above. So joint secretary, additional secretary, and secretary are all ex-cadre positions. The BJP could have given it to whoever it wanted to. They chose not to. They chose to stick with the IAS. Go ask them why, na?
Next one, please. Thank you, Kyunki, for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you, Marwan Albalushi. If you, Edward Luttwak's bleak view of CN is China, I think, strategic acumen is true. They lack grand strategy and are accustomed to being ruled by foreigners. How about India?
Look, I don't agree with Luttwak 100%. I think because we don't understand the cultural milieu and the idioms of China, there's a lot of seeing profoundness and strategic planning where none exists. Okay. At the same time, there is a lot of strategic planning. You look at China's current development, that couldn't have happened without planning. India historically, we've never had strategic planning for about 2000 years now. I think the last evidence of strategic planning you have with the Guptas, and after that, basically something happens around 700 AD. Okay, 732 AD is when we definitively invent the zero. And we're so taken in by our invention of the zero that we decide to collectively reduce ourselves to zero. And after that, there is nothing good that happens in India. So after that, there is no strategic planning also. Even if you plan, it all goes to shit.
Next question, please.
We don't just invent ideas, we live our ideas. So we invented the zero and we now live the idea of the zero.
Next question, please. Divyanshu Srivastava, thank you so much. Indian Navy aircraft wing is better than IAF. IAF neither have AWACS nor MRFA. Their long-term planning is either joke or compromise. What's your say?
Boss, they do have AWACS and refueling and everything, boss. IAF have everything that they need. That a lot of it doesn't work or talk to each other is a different matter. But yeah, I agree. I think of all the three services, the Navy's planning is the absolute best. It truly is. I mean, you look at everything. You're at least building indigenous hulls. Sure, nobody's managed to reverse engineer engine, but the Navy is definitely way ahead of the Army and the Air Force. I think the Air Force is the worst of the lot. That part I agree on, but they do have AWACS and refuelers.
Thank you, Marwan Al-Balushi. Would it be better, cheaper, and more efficient for Dubai to invite reputable Western universities to open campus in the city, or to establish organically our own universities, bearing in mind all the trade-offs, cons, and pros, etc.?
That's a really good question. I fundamentally believe the UAE should start up its own universities. If you get Western universities and Western think tanks, you get a label, but you will not control your own future. You will fundamentally have a percolation of foreign ideas, what's called isomorphic mimicry, which has no relation to the reality of the Emirates or Saudis, wherever. It is laying the roots of a colored revolution in the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. On the other hand, if you start up your own universities, you will be laughed at for the first 10 to 15 years. For the next 10 to 15 years after that, they will then be moderately worried about you. And then for the next 200 years, you will be controlling the narrative. So the question is, what do you want? Do you want to control the narrative? Or do you want a label saying, I am certified by Harvard, I'm certified by Yale, I'm certified by Princeton? And by the way, as far as I'm concerned, Harvard graduate, Yale graduate, and Princeton graduate are, in my book, pretty much in this day and age, the same as in Hindi, what MC, BC, and BSDK stand for.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, one more time, request to like this video. Only 1 in 3 of you have liked it thus far. It would be nicer if all of you who are watching could also like this video. Thanks in advance. Abhijit wants to know, sir, what really happened in Jenin? And Jenin is in proper Palestine. Does Israel have any authority to go inside Palestine and conduct such military operation? Was it a successful military operation?
They do have the authority. It was terror planning that was happening out there. So they do have the authority to go in. Technically, they're not meant to go in, but can they go in? Yes. And was it a successful look? The Israeli ways of measuring success is very skewed compared to us. Okay, they measure success in the long term, not in the short term. And because a lot of my thinking has been influenced by the kind of convoluted thinking, it's not convoluted, it's actually brilliant strategic thinking that the Israelis do. When answering this in a sort of Indian or international idiom, it's very different from answering this in the Israeli idiom. As far as the Israelis would be concerned, it will be a failure. As far as India and America would be concerned, this would be a successful operation.
Viewers, on Netflix, I think there is a series called The Ghost of Beirut. Do watch it. It's brilliant, brilliant. Have you seen that, Abhijit?
I generally avoid all these History Channel, Netflix documentaries as a rule.
It's not a documentary, it's a fiction, but it's
okay, because
based
I find
on fact.
Then even worse, no, there's no documentary based on fact, because when it comes to war and intelligence and things like that, I've noticed they're all complete humbug. They don't even represent 1% of reality.
Next one, please. Mr. Lee, we've already answered this question. We are scrambling here, and we will be momentarily back. Yeah, Archit Saraugi wants to know: have you read Ethics or Liberty by Murray Rothbard? And also, have you read Democracy, the God That Failed by Hans Hermann Hoppe?
Hopper. Yes, I've had Democracy, the God That Failed, and I have not read The Ethics of Liberty. No.
All right, next question, please. Vamsi wants to know: what are your views on government bearing 70% cost of Micron plant in India?
Well, they had to bear the cost given the fact that we didn't have the human resources to man it, which is why everybody withdrew. So it was kind of an investment in lieu of having the manpower that we claim to have. Anyway, it's not going ahead now, so that's that.
Oh, it's not going ahead? What happened?
No, Foxconn pulled out. No.
This is not Foxconn. This is a different plant. This is Micron, which is a memory
Oh,
manufacturer.
sorry. I thought this was microchip. I don't know what this Micron thing is.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit of input on this, Vamsi. Micron, which makes chips like flash memory and dynamic random access memory and so on and so forth, they wanted to have a package testing facility in India. This is mostly, labor intensive job, and it's going to create jobs for sure. And for Micron, instead of having these things done in China or other countries, having it done in India perhaps is a apples to apples comparison in terms of rates. So that is why they've decided to put this thing up, and they're putting it up in Gujarat. And that India is bearing 70% of the cost may have something to do with India wanting to get their foot into the semiconductor and related business. Nothing wrong in that. Why should somebody, they are putting still 30%, that's still a significant amount. I think it's a good situation for both. Next question, please.
If it pans out, I still don't think we have the human resources at the production level, because the kind of technical expertise required out there, an Indian trained to that level will never accept being a factory floor worker. They already think they're the next Bill Gates. So best of luck. I don't see how this is going to be any different from Foxconn. It's going to face teething human resources problems.
Next question, please. Saurabh Jain wants to know: what do MP and ministers actually do? These are members of parliament, independent charge, deputy ministers. How are they different from US senators?
They sign a lot of documents and attend a lot of meetings. In this government, all the decision making is centralized in the PMO, and very few to no ministers have any independent ability to do much. The MPs go and look after their constituency. Some of them, a lot of them do not.
A lot of them are sitting in Taj Bansing and making deals. I can see that all the time.
Yeah. And
they'll wear this ready-made panchakacham. I know this guy is an MP as soon as I see him.
Yeah. And American senators are actually much more accountable to their constituencies than Indian MPs and ministers are.
Next question, please. Marwan Al-Balushi is in a very generous mood. Thank you so much, Marwan. Imam Abhijit: I recently visited Singapore. Dubai is now a global hub while Singapore is regional. Dubai has outcompeted its teacher except for a few high-tech firms. Is my observation correct?
Yes and no. I'll tell you why. Yes, in terms of, I think Dubai is where all the money is moving, because it is not socialistic and it is very, very open to new investment. At the same time, while Dubai has trained its citizens, the Emirates has trained its citizens very, very well, they have never been made to work hard like Singaporeans have. The Singaporeans really have to work very hard. The work-life balance in Singapore is not nice. In Dubai, if you're a native Emirati, your work-life balance is excellent. You lead a great life even if you don't really work. The second issue has been one of city planning. I think Singapore's city planning was far ahead than Dubai's city planning. Dubai has a much prettier city, but I think you all know about the waste. There's no centralized waste collection. It's all collected by trucks and taken out into the desert to be into the reprocessing plant and things like that. So, in some things, yes, I think Dubai is the Singapore of tomorrow, but there are some teething problems that have to be faced. And once the reality of a cutthroat employment market is introduced to the Emirates, I don't know how that will impact the social fabric out there. Which is why the question you asked me the last time, is democracy good for the Emirates and Saudi Arabia? Remember, I said no. That was one of the reasons I said no.
Next question, please. Kyunki, whole world is turning into hellhole now. How a sane person can survive, especially Hindu? What do you think Australia's future? Will they face same thing as Europe and UK is facing because of Islamic immigration?
Tell me, is wokeism because of Islamic immigration?
I think the two are turning against each other now.
Exactly. I support Islamic immigration because the only people who are going to beat up Hindus will do jack shit. All they'll do is what they did in Somnath temple. They'll go inside and sing bhajan kirtan while Mahmood Ghazni comes and slaughters you. The only people who are going to stand up for your rights are those Muslim immigrants. Remember that. When all the pedophiles come for your children, it will be people like Hezbollah and Hamas standing up for your children, not your bloody Hindu organizations. You people don't have the guts to stand up to all of this. Muslims do. So, Kyonki, you have confused two things. You have clubbed what has made your life a hellhole with the one community capable of defeating them. If anything, you want more Muslim immigration so that it can destroy wokery completely. In a country where the system itself is against wokery, like in France, there you don't want immigration. That is perfectly fine. But in countries like Germany and Sweden and America and the UK, you want Muslim immigration, but not from Pakistan and India and Bangladesh and Afghanistan. You take people from, say, Iraq and Syria and places like that, they'll fix the problem for you.
Next question, please. Feeble Minder wants to know, what are punishments for French or US babus? In India, they are transferred to oblivion.
They're not transferred into oblivion. Please remember that. A joint secretary cannot be demoted. And all departments have power. All departments have money-making opportunities. A transfer is not a punishment. A transfer is a punishment when at the lower level you're posted as district collector, but once you reach that joint secretary level at the national level, there is really no punishment posting. Okay. In France and in the US, there is a far easier ability to sack babus who come under the same set of employer protections as anybody else. There is no special employment protection. If anything, there are much higher bars of security and operational security for babus in those countries than there are in India. And as a result, less protection, not in law, but in practice.
Luke Bloke wants to know, wouldn't liberating temples is the most crucial and core function for Hindu awakening and strong Gharvapsi as Christians, and what able to expand their reach only cause of more church and mosques?
Yes, but I've been saying this for the last 10 years, boss. You go back to my Twitter timeline, the first time I said this was in 2013 or 2014. Temples need to be given back. But even if they're given back, I don't see Hindus doing an awakening, because the Hindus, what they do with the money is start up more new temples. What do Christians and Muslims set up? Schools. They set up community centers. They set up hospitals. They provide social services. You do not provide social services even if it is liberated. Liberating will solve one set of problems, but it won't solve the problem with the Hindu mindset, which is that you don't want to provide social services to compensate for state inadequacy.
Dr. Chetan, thank you so much. UZra Zeya in India, involved in the arrest of Indian diplomat Devyani Khobragade, helped evacuate the domestic help skin out of India 2 days before the arrest. She is meeting NGOs here. What do you make of it?
We should have never given her a visa. Why the hell did we give her a visa? She should have never been given a visa, and yet she was. Go ask Dr. Jaishankar why he gave her a visa.
See, some of you should actually carry out what we are recommending to you. There's nothing wrong. You can create a Proton Mail account. It will not come back to you. But you can quietly release that. You can send it to me. I'll retweet it saying that this person has sent this email to Foreign Minister. There's nothing wrong in expressing your point of view. And if you're afraid that it might come back to bite you because you may be in a position of power or something of that sort, use Proton Mail. That's what it is supposed to be. Next question, please. Follow up, guys. Amit Karnik, thank you so much. Your Highness Abhijit, there's a lot of stories happening about Wagner. What is your candid view amidst all these media fuss? Thank you.
I honestly don't know. None of my friends in Moscow seem to. They were quite sure about certain things. Now they're not. And if they're not, then I'm not. It's that simple. I'm
Next
sorry.
question.
I have no idea what to make of the latest rumors coming out. That Wagner has resumed combat duties in Ukraine. That Prigozhin met Putin 5 days after the coup. I'm like, what the hell? I think at the end of the day, Velina Chakarova got it right and I got it wrong. It was actually a complete eyewash. But remember, for that eyewash, a lot of people died.
15 or 16, right?
Pilots were killed. At least 12 Russian pilots were killed and more people on the ground.
Next question, please. Himak957 wants to know, why did Japan fail to build a commercial aircraft but Embraer from the Brazil was successful despite being much less industrialized in a third world country? Brazil is second world, not third world. Go ahead.
Second world is really communist, no? Brazil was never communist.
Well, it's not as backward as India in the sense. I'll give you a simple example.
They're not. Yeah. But look, the reason was Japan has always, in terms of commercial aircraft, they've had a very narrow, I don't know why, they've always had a very narrow domestic focus on certain things. Okay, this is, for example, why, and there's always this, in aircraft especially, there's a big correlation between military aircraft and
commercial
civil aircraft. Okay, let me give you a simple example. Embraer's biggest, most successful products before civil aircraft were things like the Embraer Tucano, which was a trainer aircraft, which is a fantastic aircraft. Okay, and they then started with the EMB 135 and EMB 145, which were conceived as business jets, come regional jets for a local requirement. But remember, Brazil is a very big country. The distance between the north and south of Brazil is greater than the distance between North Brazil to Canada. Flying distance. Japan is a much smaller country. They bar military exports. A local requirement is too localized in their for them. Classic example is the C2 carrier, the aircraft, the transport aircraft that they've come up with, which was so hyper specialized to their needs. Brazil can afford to get hyper specialized because of the distances of Brazil involved. It's still going to be a global product. Japan is too small for its hyper specialization to grow global or to transpose globally. Okay, so Japan has a much higher industrial base, but they don't have a very good globalization of their domestic requirements. Whereas Japanese cars, on the other hand, globalize fantastically well. Simple example. What is the need in Japan? Extreme fuel efficiency, small cars, Because in Japan, you are the tax is based on the length and the width of the car as well. Okay, which suits a huge global market perfectly well. Why Japanese cars overtook American cars and ultimately destroyed American cars was because nobody wanted to pay that much money for gas or petrol, as we call it. I mean, we call it petrol, they call it
Oil
gas.
embargo of 73.
Especially the oil embargo in 73. So that completely destroyed the American auto industry. It destroyed Detroit. Okay. At the same time, Japanese aviation products just don't do that. On the other hand, 40% of the 787, the Boeing 787, is built in Japan. So it's technically a 40% Japanese product that's commercially very, very successful. But like the Japanese C-2 military transport aircraft or the Mitsubishi regional jet, too hyper specialized to Japan, just not applicable in any other scenario.
Thank you, Abhijit Sudhakar. Question to both. How was Arnold Schwarzenegger's tenure as governor?
I don't know. All I know is I've met him 3-4 times and he knows his shit, boss. When he talks about the environment, he knows what he's talking about. He's not flaky about it.
Abhijit, there's something interesting about California. Almost 85% of its budget it is voted for and spoken for. People such as me who reside in California, we go through ballots and we say, okay, we approve funding for this, we approve funding for this, and so on and so forth. So 85% of whatever the budget is already spoken for. Whoever is in the seat of power, whether it is Arnold Schwarzenegger or Donald Duck, they only have their sway in the remaining 15%. And in California, there's not much difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. At least there used to be not. Now the Democrats have gone woke, and that's very unfortunate. And so there is not much a governor can do. However, he did some good things. I wouldn't say he was too bad, because the guy he succeeded was really terrible, because he allowed...
There was a recall election. He won the recall against that fellow.
Yes. His name was Gray Davis. Gray Davis allowed the electricity companies to charge out of whack. I still feel that it was a planned thing, because everybody suddenly had a shortage, and in order to make up for the shortage, you had to pay top dollar to keep buying electricity. And these guys are saying, I'm getting it from Montana, I'm getting it from here and there. I think a lot of money got made in the whole process. We don't know. That's not been probed. But who he succeeded, he looked like a much better bet. Next question, please. Ameya Rupal wants to know. Thank you, Ameya. Abhijit, Francois Gautier once suggested that India get rid of unnecessary constitutional posts like governor, vice president, to name a few. Your thoughts?
Totally, 100% agree with him. These are all unnecessary things that cost money. They need to be gotten rid of post haste. Absolutely, 100% agree. See, governors were necessary when, communications used to take time and things like that. Today, everything happens fat. You don't need a vice president. You don't need a governor. Waste of time, waste of money, waste of public resources, waste of everything.
Thank you, Amrinder Sandhu. Ukraine counter-offensive, how Russia able to tackle?
They've already tackled it, no? Very strong defensive positions. That's simple. Dug in trenches, fortifications. That's simple.
Next question, please. Revant Reddy wants to know, majority of economists claim that the economic slowdown in first Modi era, 2017, was due to the cleaning up the house and setting house in order. Your comments?
Mostly I agree with that, but I don't agree with that 100%. A lot of it had to do with also the government not proceeding fast on reforms. Okay, so when you do clean up, it takes away. But at the same time, you can carry out simultaneous measures on the side which open up. They did nothing of that sort. So again, partially right, partially wrong.
Next question, please. Thank you, Naman Kanpal. With Agniveer retaining 50% of manpower, are we learning wrong lessons, going manpower intensive? Are we still hung on 62 meat grinder tactic of CN? Can AV service tenure be different for different branches, keeping training requirements in mind?
Look, I think the problem with manpower retention here is you'll need at least 5 to 6 years to study what Agniveer is doing. Okay, but Agniveer was always meant for meat grinder tactics. Agniveer is not a problem, is not a program you implement if you're serious on human investment. Let's be very clear about that. You don't want people to fight, you want people to die. That's the reality of the Indian military, boss. That's just what it is. So programs like Agniveer just show you that we don't take human investment. We've never taken human investment seriously in this country. We invest in big things, big pieces of machine. We don't invest in our own people. It's that simple.
Next question, please. We seem to have finished today. Very good, very fast answering of questions. Again, viewers, I don't know what to say. I mean, the software lost it, and we tried our best to retrieve your questions and have them put to Abhijit. And please, if you don't mind, you can reframe your questions and send it to us for the next week. Abhijit will be here back next Wednesday. And thank you once again, Abhijit. And viewers,
I think we've gotten one last question because we've got 4 minutes left.
Okay.
Abhijit Sudhakar.
One more question. Abhijit Sudhakar, again, thank you. Is Crown series accurate? Was Duke of Windsor really Nazi supporter and wanted to overthrow Edward? That is correct.
50%, 50%. He didn't want to overthrow Edward, but he was a Nazi supporter, yes.
Next question.
There's a lot of inaccuracies in the Crown. Huh? Don't take Crown as history. Look, there's no TV adaptation I know that isn't full of errors and is history. Just doesn't exist.
Thank you so much again, Abhijit. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, same time.
Blessed lotus feet. Stop dead naming me.